he just came out of the blue one day and he was like, "So what are you working on?" I'm like, "You have a listen to this and see what you think of this." And then he went berserk with Clint for like 2 or 3 days. And then we went back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, and now the song is incredible.
Yeah.
And you know, Clint is really he's really appreciated Greg's involvement in this as well because let's face it, man. Like Clint was saying, like he uses Greg's plugins when he's mixing and mastering stuff. So like to have him like on a phone call chatting, you know, about the mix and you know do this, do that, turn up 2 dB here, and you know whatever, just producer talk. It's pretty amazing, man. It's pretty amazing. And then he got his buddy. Brian Lucy, Magic Garden Mastering. He's done some incredible work, and he mastered this song. It just turned out fantastic. I think it's 100% the best song to date for me,
Yeah.
and I'm hoping radio feels the same way.
I grew up just like any other kid in Newport, Newfoundland. Around, on, and sometimes even in the water. I grew up wanting to be a sailor, just like my father. I eventually sailed on ships all over the world for 20 years. Then I met this guy, Greg Wells. He bought a 100-year-old church in my hometown, along with a great team of people. There's some very special things happening there. My name is Ryan Gates. This is my hometown of Winterton, Newfoundland. This is Downey's Bank, Scilly Cove Records podcast. All right, everyone. Welcome to episode 5 of the Downey's Bank podcast. I'm your host, Ryan Gates, and I'm joined today by Mr. Justin Fancy. How you doing, Justin?
I'm pretty good, man. How you doing? Feels like we've been about a month trying to do this.
We have. We've been even longer trying to meet because I think I first ran into you online. Oh gosh, over 2 years ago now, I guess. First-ish. First when you were starting to break on, really taking your music to that next level and getting serious.
Right.
And I've always been, even prior to getting involved in the Trinity Hall, Scilly Cove Records thing, I've been always involved in the music scene with, you know, organizing concerts and festivals and this and that. And I had stumbled onto your music and we had reached out and just through jigs and reels, it never came together to put off a show, but it was close a couple of times. It's like it always is with artists, man. Scheduling, especially you with a full band and stuff, it's just tough sometimes.
Yeah. And a full-time job and a daughter and a music career. Yeah, it never ends, man. But we're gonna do that show one of these days, and hopefully very soon. I'm hoping to get down now and get down in May, obviously for Greg when he comes and the whole grand opening of the church and all that kind of stuff. So
there you go. There's announcement number 1 from the podcast tonight. Justin is going to be. We haven't actually released a list of names, and the list of names is quite interesting. When we set out to do the grand opening lineup, because we're planning like 7 hours of music, like it's going to be a full day of just artists coming. The beauty of it is, the beauty of how we have it structured and what Greg wanted was he wanted to be a celebration of music and a celebration of what we hope to accomplish in the future. And in doing so, we've just reached out to people. This is not a paid gig for anybody who's coming. It's not a paid event for anybody who's attending. It's just people coming together for music. And that is what makes it incredibly special, because everybody who we've reached out to asked, you know, just casually, would you be interested in coming out for this? No, we completely understand if you can't for whatever reason, whether it's travel, distance, time. Everybody said yes. Everybody we've reached out to. And that's real cool. And we haven't released a list of names yet, but I was going to drop it now in this podcast anyway, but Justin beat me to it. Justin will be in attendance for the May 19th grand opening of Trinity Hall in Winterton, Newfoundland. And if you're watching this podcast, I'm sure you've already made plans to attend, but you'll have to check the schedule, see what time Justin's going to get on. We're basically running, it's going to be like half an hour spots or so. Like it's not going to be a long-winded, you know, big old concert for people to come and play. It's a great opportunity for you to share a bit of your music, but you know, hang out with some other artists, hang out with some people in and around the town who've you know, hasn't got a chance. It's not just in and around the town either. The amount of people who've told me they're coming is, I don't know where we're going to put everybody. Anyway, I don't know. Maybe if you don't get there early enough, Justin, you're not going to get in.
The more the merrier, I'd say.
Yeah.
I would imagine the more the merrier. Yeah, it's Well, I mean, he's creating. You guys are creating a lot of buzz, and obviously, Newfoundlanders love a good party, and love live entertainment. I mean, it's where I developed a passion to for music. I mean, this place is it lives and breathes it, as far as I'm concerned, and every genre of music. It's crazy how diverse our genres are, music are here. Obviously, we're that traditional Irish kind of folk music foundation, but I mean, I grew up on country music, so and I mean, I know a lot of people can say the same. Um,
Well,
so
yeah.
to have all of that talent come together, and I'm sure there, as different genres, the people that you've invited and everything else, and to have all that come together for kind of a celebration of what Greg and you guys are doing with Scilly Cove is, yeah, it's pretty amazing stuff in a small town for sure.
Well, I want to jump right to what the key point in what you were just talking about is your genre of music, which is strictly is as country gets.
Hmm.
It's that upbeat kind of modern country that I really dig because I was never a
Hmm.
country music fan. Never. I didn't grow up on country. I grew up
Hmm.
on Guns N' Roses and Poison and all that crap. Right. I use crap lately, but I love the music. But it's a different, classic rock from the '80s is a long stretch from what you're doing.
Yeah.
But
Hmm.
I've come to really enjoy country music in the last, I don't know, 5 years or so. For me, I don't
Hmm.
know if it's just a change in my taste or maybe my age. I have no idea what it is. But um, for you, what were your main influences, I guess, growing up when it comes to this country scene?
Yeah, so it was classic rock, it was country, it was I mean in country, I didn't really get into classic rock till later, till I started playing bars and pubs, and then I had to play the stuff, the Tom Petty's and all that kind of stuff. But I'm incredibly fortunate to have went down that road and got to experience that kind of music. I mean, yes, I heard it on the radio. My dad, dad or mom going on the road, and they've got on, a classic rock station. You've been listening away at that kind of stuff. The Eagles were majorly influential to my kind of sound and what I'm going for these days. But of course, I met Clint, and then we got into more modern. I write as if I'm writing for the Eagles or writing for a '90s country band like an Alan Jackson or whatever. It's just how the production twists. And when I met Clint, that really changed things for me. Changed perspective on a lot of songs I've written, and it's given me more freedom to write. Create the foundation and write songs that I might write songs and it'll come out one way, and then Clint could take, well, what do you think about this? What do you think about that? And I think that's the beauty of having a producer that really knows me inside out, and myself and Clint really have that relationship, and I know Greg has jumped in here, um, and he's appreciated that relationship, which is an amazing thing. I mean, he doesn't really want to disturb what myself and Clint are doing because he thinks, he thinks that the foundation is there. He just wants to add to the magic, which is amazing. But I mean, going back to influences, um, I'm an entertainer at heart. I've always been, and I always love to see reaction from people. So when I started playing music, when I wanted to get a reaction out of my dad first and foremost. And the first song I learned how to play was the Wildwood Flower, um, and that took me. I mean, it took me probably a month to try and get that down and try to get the picking because I'd always go to family parties. My dad's family parties, dad's side of the family, they'd always play the Wild Flowers like the only song that they knew how to play on guitar. So they played it every time, and I wanted to learn how to play it. And I drove them nuts for a couple of weeks, and then I learned that song, and that was the foundation of where I wanted to go with it. I didn't like playing to myself or singing to myself. Always wanted someone around that I could get a reaction from to see if it was fit, or to see if it was half decent. And then I started getting a lot of reaction from older folk that had listened to old country music. So George Jones, Merle Haggard, Johnny Cash, Hank Williams, Willie Nelson, and the list goes on. All of these artists I wanted to learn because it's what the older folk wanted to hear. And it's that for me was, um, unbelievably satisfactory for me that I could sit down and for one I could amaze them that I even knew the song, because it was 50 or 60 years old. And, what's this 14, 15-year-old kid doing playing a Merle Haggard song that's 50 or 60 years old? It's like, it's just, so it was that factor. And then, of course, I had a decent voice. So people just loved to hear me sing, and I got better because of that. And, there was a point in time where my mom drove me nuts, and everywhere I went, I had to bring my guitar, and it's still like that these days. I just don't bring my guitar when I go like on a skidoo trip or something like that. I just don't bring my guitar anymore, and then I that's my excuse. I don't have my tools of the trade. But it's like anything else. I tell everybody else, and like when I go on a vacation or whatever, and oh, how come you didn't bring your guitar? And I'm like, would you want to, I'm talking to a cement finisher here that's, going on vacation. I said, would you want to bring your trowel and your wheelbarrow of cement down to Florida with you and work away on a vacation? So that's the way I thought about that. But I love playing music. I love entertaining, and it's my foundation, and it's where I got to learn so much music, and learn music that were hit songs on radio stations, what songs people loved. And I think that's where I got my songwriting ability too. And I didn't take any courses for this stuff. I didn't go to lessons. I did 2 lessons, and that was it for me. I learned a few chords, and I just took it and went my own way from there. But foundation for me, 100% entertainer. I like to entertain. I like to get reaction from others, and I like to move people with my music. And I think that's pretty evident in the lyrics and songs that I've written so far.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I do find it interesting though that at 14, 15, you were trying to learn songs that the older folks would know, because I too play guitar, not at your level.
Yeah.
When I was 14 or 15, I was trying to learn songs that 16 and 17-year-old girls liked. So,
Yeah, man. Well, I mean, I guess the charm in it was that I was able to entertain their parents, and that charmed them for whatever reason. Yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know, but yeah, it was. I mean, yes, interesting, but it was just like. My parents always taught me to have respect for your elders, obviously, and it was something, I guess, that just tied into that. I mean, I just loved to entertain, and loved to entertain the older folk. Like, you sit around a campfire, and I had someone's grandparents sit around, and I'd start to play, and my friends wouldn't know the songs, but they wouldn't. They'd be singing along. I mean, there was nothing more satisfying for me to know that you could bring back memories for somebody older than you, with music, which is pretty cool, I guess.
oh, absolutely, man. Absolutely. So let's talk about, I guess, I mean, I wouldn't call it the elephant in the room because everyone knows about it. You made a trip down to LA. You spent some time
Yeah.
with our proprietor, with Greg Wells, for a week,
Hmm.
songwriting and sights and sounds. But give us a deeper dive into what that was like. I mean, that had to be kind of one of those kind of career pivot points where you realize, okay, now I'm on an actual road here.
It was. It definitely was. And I mean, just to get that invite from Greg was amazing, surprising, and I'm just extremely fortunate to being able to go down there and take a week out of his busy schedule, and really hone in. I mean, on not only my career, but what he's done. I got some history lessons, and we actually. One of the biggest memories I'll ever have is just sitting down with him and going through his playlist of very well produced songs, and picking them apart. And he had asked me a few times, what song really hits you, what song really moves you, and before we even started the songwriting part of it. And I told him I'm a big fan of Brooks and Dunn. I'm a big fan of the Dixie Chicks and the production that they had when they were moving, and so we literally dissected songs, and that was one of the coolest moments for me, because I'm a geek when it comes to that stuff. I wouldn't call myself a producer, but I realize things in songs that a lot of amateur or regular folk who listen to music don't really realize. So that was really, really cool for me. We wrote three songs when I was down there. My first time to California too. So this was really, really cool for me to just driving down the road and looking at like all the boulevard names. Santa Monica Boulevard. I can't remember a few more, but you look at signs and like it's in movies and TV shows and music. Like just crazy. A song comes up in your head when you're driving down the road and you see a sign on the road, and it's just crazy. So that part of it, the scenery, I didn't get to see much scenery, obviously, because we divulged in a Justin Gregg thing, and I got to spend some very, very quality time with Greg, and I think I learned a lot about me and who I am as an artist, and a lot about the industry. And I think for him to be able to take that time again out of his busy schedule and make room for me to fly to LA and spend a week with him and write three songs was just an amazing experience, and I'm truly truly grateful for his time, obviously, and yeah, it's definitely. I keep saying, it's going to be a TSN turning point for me. I think it's allowed me to divulge on again who I am as an artist and what I want to do and how I want to do it. And one of the biggest things I took away from Greg was that he really respected my songwriting ability, which I hadn't heard that from anybody of that stature before, which was pretty amazing to me. I've heard it from obviously my family and friends and a few fans here and there saying you're a good songwriter. When you hear that from Greg Wells, one of the best songwriters to ever live, one of the best producers to ever live, is just is mind blowing to me. It's it was almost like I was in a dream, and to me, the respect we have for each other, and that just mutual musician kind of music industry respect was really really cool. I brought my brother and Anna wanted to come. His girlfriend wanted to come, just to hang out and do the California thing. They figured they'd just fly down with me, get their own room, and do the California thing because they had never been. And he took us out to dinner, and we met, and I got to show my brother and Anna the studio he was in, and all the old guitars on the walls and all that kind of stuff. So that was really really cool. And I guess for me, I'm kind of I've been in the industry a long time, so I don't get overly excited about things anymore like I used to, and over kind of analyze or over think that this is the thing that's gonna make me move it's just I know and I know I have to continue to put in the work, but having people around like Greg is a massive massive I guess I can call it, it's a massive advantage to have someone like that on your team that has one bought into your music and two is willing to take it to the next level. And he's guaranteed that for me. And I think that's for me, just having his name on something. Like we got this new track coming out that we've been working on, and Clint was out of his mind. He had so much respect for Greg and what he's doing. He has Greg's plugins in his tools that he uses to mix and master. I mean, it's just pretty crazy stuff how it all went down, and I'm very very grateful and very very honored to have been in his company for a week.
No, absolutely. I mean, everybody, I mean, I would like to think anyway, everybody who's ever made it in any kind of a music scene needs some sort of a sounding board or a mentor or someone who they can kind of help take them under their wing in a way, shape, and form. And Greg will be the first to tell you the same, much the same. He when he broke into the music scene was under the wing of Mark Hudson, who was a big time music producer at the time, and
Yeah.
long career of working with some of the best in the world, right? And that's no knock against anybody Greg have worked with, but this guy was the real deal. But again, he's seen promise in Greg as a musician. As I mean,
Yeah.
Greg is, and you don't need to look through many of Greg's Instagram posts before you stumble on one or two where he's playing or he's
Mm-hmm.
creating something on his own, and it's
Mm-hmm.
ridiculous. It's just full on ridiculous. He says, "Oh,
It
I'm not a
is.
great guitar player." I'm like, I would burn everything I got here if I thought I was if I even had the opportunity to be half the guitar player that Greg is, for example. You know what I mean?
Yep.
He touts himself as a drummer and not a piano player. I'm like, you're an idiot because like you play the piano better than anybody I've ever been in the company of. So he's very, very modest and humble in the way he approaches self promotion, I guess, in a way.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there's something to be learned from that too. I've learned a lot in this process already. I've only known Greg for about a year. I talk to him every day of my life in one way, shape, or another about something, because it's I don't know if it'll always be like that, but right now we're so busy in getting things off the ground at both Trinity Hall and Scilly Cove Records that there's always something coming across my plate, whether it's a phone call, a text message, something about something.
Yeah.
And it's usually 99% of the time it's fun stuff. Like he's really took on this project and looked at Newfoundland as a place where he can kind of sink his teeth in and help. Because I had a conversation with Courtney Wicks actually on this podcast a month ago, and in the original inception, when all the talk was Greg Wells was going to be coming to Winterton and doing something, my initial thought was, okay, well, yeah, this guy is, he's going to throw Newfoundlanders a freaking bone, this is not, but that's not what it is at all. Not even remotely close. Like he takes music incredibly seriously. It's his job. It's his passion. And this project is no different. He's only choosing to work with and produce and do work in Newfoundland with people who fit his people that fit his taste in music and what he wants to accomplish. Right? It's not just anybody coming in off the street. He really needs to connect with the music, or he's not going to be interested in producing it. And that's because that's when he does his best work. Like everybody, right? So I mean, I'm glad to hear you had a great trip, and I'm sure it's if nothing else comes out of it, which we know something will, because you are already going to produce some music with Greg and written with Greg. But if nothing else came out of it at all, what an experience for an artist.
Then, and I've had a lot of people reach out and ask me what my experience was like and all that kind of stuff. It's really, for me, again, I'm just really fortunate to have someone like that reach out right out of the blue and ask me to go and write with them in LA. I mean, I'm a little old Newfoundlander from Conception Bay South, putting out some country songs that I think that are moving people, and I think he realized that, and I think he wanted to help. He genuinely wanted to help, which was, for me, you walk into these type of situations, and again, you're cautious because lots of people say they want to help, and this industry is a weird industry for that kind of stuff. And there's it's a cutthroat industry. There's no doubt about it, and there's people that want to make money off of you in ways that sounds beautiful in the beginning, and it ends up being a shit show. But this guy is genuine. From what from the person that I met in LA when I shook his hand, he was 100% genuine to me, and I just think he's a beautiful person. And think that he's just one of those guys that I would never dream of meeting at that level. He's just at a level that I did never think I was going to get to, or get to meet these people. I mean, he's casually talking about Keith Urban and Adele, Kelsey Ballerini, and these people. These people know Greg personally. They've worked with him, which is crazy. And yeah, again, I'm just really, really fortunate to have met him, spent time with him, and I think I can tell you here now that I got a record coming out in September that I think is obviously going to be, for me, it's going to be my best work. And I think, as much as I can get Greg involved with it, it's going to be even better. And so I'm just really, really excited for what's next. And and to have Greg involved with that is it's just been, for me, a lot of things have changed since January, because in December he had invited me out, and then after December it was just like, okay, so we just, after getting a factor grant for this album as well, and some Arts and L and Music and L support as well, and we get this call, so everything is just, we had plans, and now everything is pretty much like blown right out of the water, because now we're on a different level and we need to plan for different level things. So if it's more marketing, or if it's more investment in the recording process of what that means, how much it's going to cost to do this. So it was just like everything just went bottom up, and a new train started moving once I got down to LA and worked with Greg. And Greg promised some things that I think are really going to be game changers for me, and I think that is crazy. Again, just very fortunate to have spent that time with Greg and developed a relationship with him.
Yeah, I'm really glad you spoke on the personal side of things too, because while everyone sees Greg as the investor and the guy who's coming in here and setting up shop, I don't think everybody's fully grasped just how good of a dude this guy is. Because again, let's go way back when originally, this was like a week after I heard the church was sold, when the deal was in the works, that he's purchasing this church. It's just a matter of crossing some T's and dotting some I's. My initial reaction was, who's this douche from LA coming in to ruin my little hometown? Right? That's just but because, as you say, when things being cutthroat and everything else, and like, I just find myself a lot of times on the caution side of things when I hear something that sounds too good to be true. I mean, we've all seen internet scams. We've all heard about telephone scams. There's everything in the world out there to make you think that the world is not a bowl of sunshine, and it's not. So my original thought was that I'm like, okay, this guy, I don't know. There's something afoot here. I'm going to try and get involved in this to at least have the interests of the best town at the forefront, the best interest of the town, at the forefront.
Yeah.
And I met him over a telephone conversation first and foremost. We chatted, and I was like, okay, I got a pretty good vibe from this guy. He's pretty chill. But anyway, like, maybe it's the wolf in sheep's clothing. Kind of this, just but it's just. I mean, like I said, I've gotten to know the guy over the last year, and I mean, I would trust him with my children, and that's not something I throw out there lightly. You know what I mean? He's that kind of a guy that is in this for 100% the right reasons. When I say there's $0 to be made for Greg on this Scilly Cove Records, it's not even $0 to be made. It's a money losing venture on all ends. It's ridiculous the amount of money that this is costing the man to set this up so that people of Newfoundland and Labrador stand to benefit. And it's become more even already than I think what he originally envisioned, because he sees an opportunity to help people who, like yourself, who are on the right track and just can use that little bump. I know he's looked at a lot of artists in Newfoundland and said, you know what, this is a hot spot. It's really interesting to me though. Like I said, given your genre of music, Newfoundland, you kind of touched on it earlier, but I mean, I'd like to talk about it some more, because again, you want to talk about elephants in the room, a country music artist from Newfoundland is well up there, right? I only know of, really, when it comes to people who are doing it too, and that's how I stumbled onto your music, actually, in a roundabout way. I was a big fan of Mallory Johnson the first time I heard one of her YouTube videos. I don't even recall which one it was, but she did that series of music with Mal, right?
I love that, the Malbec stuff. I love that. That was really, really well done. Really well done. And Mallory's a good friend of mine. She grew up with my youngest brother, and she's also from CBS. And I've been able to bang some stuff off of her, industry wise, and her likewise. I mean, we talk all the time, and I'm going to Nashville now in June 10th to the 18th. I'm going to catch the tail end of CMA Fest, and I'm going to spend some time down there, and obviously myself and Mallory are going to hook up down there and maybe write a song or two. We'll see what happens, but she's just a really good friend of mine, and a really good industry friend. We have mutual goals, obviously, and we help each other with that. So she's fantastic. My lights are blinking here now, and I think it's because they're doing Muskrat Falls testing again.
Mine just did the same thing. I noticed yours blinked on
Yeah,
the green side, I mine did. So yeah, here we go.
yeah, yeah. Oh yeah, it's the Muskrat Falls thing going again, right? This $16 billion debacle, and they can't get in anyway. We won't comment on that.
No, we'll do our best to keep politics out of this one if we can.
Yeah,
But no,
yeah,
again, speaking of again Mallory's music versus yours, two completely different ends of it too.
yeah,
You know what I
yeah,
mean? Two completely
yeah,
different styles. I mean, her vocals are just like silky smooth is the only way I would describe it. You know, it's
yeah.
just she's just such a beautiful, beautiful singer. One of the best I think to ever come off the island, personally.
Yeah.
In for that styling, and there's yourself who has that almost that the smoky growl in your voice when you're singing.
Yeah, yeah.
It's country, right? And
Appreciate that,
again,
man.
no, it's listen. I became a fan long before I got involved with any of this or whatnot. Your stuff was on my playlist on Spotify for a long time.
Mm.
Um, Something I don't know if you remember or not, and maybe you weren't even fully aware when you shot the first music video. Which one was it that had the convertible in it?
That was Sure Beats a Good Time.
Or
That
Beats
was
a Good Time.
yeah, it was the third. That was the third video, but it was the first off my record, off the first
Yeah,
album, because I released a couple songs before that. I still think that's my favorite video and favorite scene of the videos. Myself and Sam in that convertible,
I agree.
driving up Kilbride, making it look like a country scene.
Yeah, up to old Babel's Road.
Yeah.
I love it too. But that particular video, we have a mutual friend. We might as well touch on that too
Mm-hmm.
because he's an idiot.
Mm-hmm.
Ted.
Mm-hmm.
Ted Perrin is a mutual friend of mine. I've known Ted for 20 years. He stood at my wedding. He's one of
Yeah.
my best buddies on the planet, and he's a good friend of yours. So
That's great. Yeah.
prior leading up to this video shoot, Ted reached out to me. He's like, can we borrow your car? I'm like, what do you want my car for? He's like, buddy of mine's making a music video. He said he's looking for an old convertible. I'm like, okay, sure. I don't know, right? And for whatever reason, I can't remember what the story was, but I was away at the time. I think that when you guys were planning to do it, I ended up offshore, and I
Yeah.
messaged Ted. I said, I'm not going to be home, so it'd be too much trouble for trying to get it out of storage for you guys. Blah blah
Yeah.
blah. He's like, oh no, no worries.
Yeah.
We'll find something else. But that was my first ever Justin Fancy experience. I didn't even know it until
That
after.
was
I was
pretty
like,
cool.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, because
So
I know he mentioned your name, and obviously you reached out after about some other music stuff. But I connected the dots after, and obviously Ted's one of my best buddies. We spend summers on Conception Bay like you wouldn't believe. Any moment we came around the bay, and obviously him and Diane and the kids and everything. They mean the world to me. They're mentors, and they're people that put up with my shit. So I guess I'm a better person because of two of them, and I love them to pieces. I think Ted is gold, and Diana is just a beautiful person. Love them to death.
I had a lot of respect for you, Justin, until you told me that Ted Perrin was a mentor. Because I guarantee you, if that's the case, you're on the Motley Crue wagon of burning down hotels and shit.
He's good. He listens to my shit, so he's got to be a bit of a mentor, I guess. Just music industry stuff. It could be anything. Could be boats. Could be anything. He's a good he's a good person to blow off the steam, we'll say.
I
Cool.
100% agree. Me and Ted, we've been buddies, like I said, 20 years, and we're basically the same person.
Mm.
It's really weird. But in any case, like I said, we can't give too much praise to Ted. He'll be bragging about this forever. Uh,
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I guess so. We dropped the announcement of your attending the opening of the grand opening for Trinity Hall in May.
Hmm.
You mentioned you're
Hmm.
dropping a record in September. So that's announcement number
Hmm.
two. Announcement number
Yeah.
three. You mentioned that you may have a song coming out soon. You want to drop that one on us?
Yeah. So we're gonna drop a brand new song. It's called Lie. And Greg helped out with this one, and this one's coming on April 22nd. So it'll be on all streaming platforms. And there's a pre-save link in my bio on Instagram or on Facebook. You can follow me there. Justin Fancy Music, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, whatever way you want to start following there. More followers, the better, and the more pre-saves, the better. And for those who don't really understand what a pre-save is basically um, you sign up for when the song comes out. That day it comes out, it gets added to your playlist automatically. or it gets bought on iTunes automatically. And that really, really helps an independent artist like myself, because if that keeps adding up, basically what happens, let's say in a month, I get 1,000 pre-saves for this song. That chart number, that 1,000 hits comes on the day of the release, which boosts you up in charting. Let's say on the iTunes album chart, or single chart, or what's the hottest songs or whatever. It just, and all the algorithms kind of come in and do their thing, because it's, this is hot attention. So the more pre-saves you build up on the day of the release, it just makes it more of a bang on that day. So that's why artists love to promote the pre-save option, and I think it's very important for artists like myself, all artists.
Absolutely. And I'm so glad you took the time to explain that, because there's so many intricacies to being an artist. It's not just making music and the music being good anymore. That doesn't even matter. It really, I mean, it does. I mean, you don't get anywhere if the music is not any good. But there's so many artists out there who have amazing music who it never reaches anybody because of the things that you're talking about. The small things which make huge difference. And making sure you got that subscriber base on YouTube, and making sure you've got the pre-saves and all that stuff, and explaining why these things are important. I think to just the average Joe at opportunities like this, I think is an amazing thing to do, because if there's anything I know for sure, is that Newfoundlanders love to help. We've seen it time and time again, right back to the Canadian Idol days. Well, recently, it was Kelly Loaders. Now, that's not, I mean, Kelly's a good friend of yours, too. There's no knock on Kelly's talent, because she is absolutely one of the very best that ever come out of the island. But again, the support that she got locally, because of how, what's the right way to put it? How loyal or how passionate Newfoundlanders are about supporting one another. We've always been that way. It's a generational thing. And that goes back way beyond our generation and even the one before us. We always took time to help each other. Letting the people know how they can best help you attain your goals, I think, is important, because we're on the Justin Fancy train too, right? All of us. So,
and I appreciate, I mean, all the support I've gotten has been crazy. Awesome. I get messages all the time, and obviously you got your foundation of fans that are always supporting you. Whatever you do, you tell them to go do something, they do it. And I'm extremely fortunate to have people like that around, and it takes so much work on the social media side and to keep that train going. And the back end, releasing this song, we go in the studio, record it, and I had Greg involved this time, so we were going back and forth with Clint and Greg and Brian Lucy, which he's the guy who mastered it. There was just so much going back and forth. So then you have the product, then you got to promote it. I mean, it doesn't just, I mean, I think the biggest thing about artists in Newfoundland and their issues are education. A lot of artists are really, really good artists, really, really good, but they just don't know where to go to find help or get education on how you promote and how you release these things. I know an artist that was spitting out songs for years and years and years, with zero promotion, just releasing it and throwing it on Spotify and hoping something to happen, and nothing happens with it. So there's a foundation that you need to build as a team to look good, both on the outside and inside. Inside being you attract more music industry people that want to work with you because they see the final product and they see the work that you're putting into it. And I think that's very, very important. And I learned that, and I had motivation to learn how to do that both on the inside and out. It's what I tell younger artists and artists that are trying to do the same thing that I've been able to do in the last couple of years. There's no right or wrong way to do it. It's just it just takes a ton of work, and you have to have the work ethic and foundation and people around you that are telling you how this all works. And I'm fortunate enough to have Paula Danielewicz, my manager, that has been with me pretty much since day one, that has taught me a shitload of stuff that that I wouldn't have known myself. And so like I'd learn one thing off of her, and then I'd go and learn 10 things off of that would sprout off of that, and I'd come back and kind of have that conversation. Obviously having Greg around now is a new thing for me, and it's a very educational thing. And it creates motivation. It gives me more fuel to have people like that around. I think that's very important. I think the music industry as a whole lacks the where to go kind of deal and how to do it right. And there's not a lot of promotion or education around that. And I think, our music and L's come a long way in the last few years under Rhonda Toklane, and I think she's doing some amazing stuff that's going to really, really help artists in our province. And so I had to bring that up because they're doing amazing work. But I think to get your music out of Newfoundland and create a national brand, it really, really takes a team. It takes effort. It takes work ethic and motivation. Obviously, you have to have good music, and that's where it starts. Really, the foundation is the music. It's the songs. If you don't have good music, you're not going to get played on radio. It's just as simple as that. You could have good music, and Greg touched on this. You can have good music but not great music and never make it to a radio station. You can have great music and never make it to a radio station. Good is Greg said this. Good is not going to make it in this industry. You need to be great, and you need to be unique. You need to be different, and at the same time, you need to be alike. So it's a catch-22 because you have to be unique as an artist, but you have to have what it takes to be mainstream in this industry, and it's very important. I attended a David Foster workshop in Toronto a few months back, and he touched on a lot of things about the songwriting side. I mean, everybody's a songwriter. Everybody can write a song, but not everybody can write a great song. And he touched on the fact that he started out, and I mean, he started out as just a guy who was writing songs, and he ended up, writing for Celine Dion and all of these huge artists, Elton John, and these huge artists, because he got momentum. One of his songs out of the 4,000 that he had written got a cut by big artists, and that's all it took. And then it, kind of built from there, and momentum started from there. Same kind of thing with Greg and what Greg went through. He got his break, and he took advantage of that. Motivated individuals that believe in themselves and are very confident, they take advantage of opportunities like that. It's what I'm planning to do with Greg. I mean, I want to make this the best record possible. I don't want his name on it if I'm not happy with it, or if he's not happy with it. We want to be 100% happy with this. And Greg Wells happy. I'm being biased here, but Greg Wells happy is very, very, very Greg happy. It's very great, and it's very, very good. So I'm hoping, and from what I'm hearing so far, it's next level stuff. So if you have the motivation and confidence in yourself that that your finished product should move people, then it's worth the investment to go and get and build a team around you that have experience and knowledge around the music industry and the way it works. And I think that was the best thing that could have ever happened to me. The other thing is the other bit of advice that I would give to artists is up and coming artists is don't listen to what your mom and dad says about your songs or your friends about your songs. Get industry people to review your songs and get feedback. And I think that was, again, the most important thing that I've ever done. Your mom and dad and your friends and everybody they're all going to say it's great. They're all going to say it's great, should be on the radio and all this kind of stuff. Get advice from people that are making a decision. So, for example, radio stations. If you can develop relationships with radio stations, and, if that's what avenue you want to go down. I mean, I know some artists that are creating songs for TV shows and commercials that are making a living at it, and they don't touch commercial radio. It's just you follow your dream, man. And I think so. Going back to what's good and great, music and all this kind of stuff. Take advice from people that are engraved in the industry and people that may influence your music and influence your career. Take it from the top. And I've had a lot of no's. I've had so many no's. Just no, we don't like the song, we're not going to add it. But I've gotten a lot of very, very motivational feedback in like, man, listen, you're doing some great stuff. Your vocals are really great. The production is really good, but the song is just not quite there. And so you take that feedback, and it's what motivates you to get better. It's just for me, I'm just programmed that way that I want to get to a point where I'm satisfying everybody with my music. And it'll probably never come, but I want to be that guy that radio is waiting for my song to come out because they can't wait to add it. They can't wait to listen to it. So from an independent standpoint right now where I'm too, radio is obvious. They're listening to what I have to say and they're listening to my music. So that's all you can ever hope for as an artist. I mean, when we send something out the radio, they listen to it.
Yeah, it's not going
Whether
right in the
they add
recycling
it,
bin. Yeah.
yeah, no, whether they add it or not is a different story. But so yes, it's the song, it's the foundation, but you have to develop relationships too. And I think that was very important for me to be. I wanted to meet everybody. I want who were the people that were going to change things for me in the radio world and in the industry, and I wanted to meet those people, and I think that it was advantageous for me to do that over the pandemic. Because when I send an email now to radio, they know who I am, and I'm friends with a lot of these people now. And I think they respect me and as an artist, and they see great things happening, which is what you try and do. You create a foundation. It's no different than creating a business with a brand. You're expected to deliver at a certain level, and I think I've gotten to that point now with Greg coming on board and this whole train. I think it's going to elevate my game, which is crazy cool. And I mean, I'm really really excited for the next Justin Fancy record and the whole thing. I mean, I'm digging in deep. I've co-written a ton of songs. I've written some songs on my own, and we're basically sifting through them now, the best ones. And myself and Clint we're at it, and we got to get some tunes done now in the next couple of months. And I'm hoping Greg can be involved in that as well. Be cool.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, one more thing I want to touch on before we knock this one on the head, because we talked about your team a lot, and
Yeah.
it really is a team approach when in this business. You're not going to make it by yourself without having again that team of people around you, like the Greg Wells and Clint and Paula and the great and people who you've relied heavily on. But let's talk for a minute about your live band, because while I'm a Justin Fancy fan, man, I've been following Nick Earl a long time too. Right. So let's just talk about the guys in your band. I mean, Dan on drums. You just got you've surrounded yourself with such quality musicians as well. I just want you to brush on that, because I wouldn't feel right if we didn't.
Yeah. So, I mean, the band, I knew I needed I wanted a stellar band, and I've been playing for years and years and years. I know what musicians, I knew what musicians to get involved from day one. Now, from day one, it was Clint Curtis that was going to play the lead guitar and keys for me in this band. And that didn't work out because Clint's got his own business on the go, out in Springdale. But that was I wanted that to happen, and I wanted him to travel to come and play in my band. So I had reached out to Dan George, and he's become one of my best friends in the world. He's a beautiful person, and I've been able to help him out quite a bit. Industry wise and getting to meet people. We went to CMAs and all this kind of stuff. But basically in the beginning, I was concerned because I didn't think Clint was going to play, and we had a few gigs lined up, and I didn't think Clint was going to do it. And he said, Nick Earl's your guy. And I had heard Nick play, but I just figured he was a rocker, like a Matt Mays kind of guy. I didn't think he could play country, and there's a certain way to play country music on a telly, and there's different licks, there's different everything. But this guy is a complete 100% wizard. He learned everything that Clint played for me on the records, and more. He's an unbelievable guy. I love him to pieces. I think he is ready to bust with his career, and I think, if I can help that along by introducing him to the world as my guitar player and kind of get his way in there, I just want to see him do great things because he's an unbelievable artist. So I just said to Dan, I just said, all right, let's try it. Let's get him in and do a rehearsal, and we rehearsed. This was for my album release show, and we rehearsed, and it was automatic. Then it was just automatic for me that I wanted him involved in this band. And of course, I got a childhood friend that I grew up with, Jacob Earl, on the bass guitar. He's a phenomenal player, phenomenal artist, great songwriter. Just the full package when it comes to bass. And I just recently added Armando Faulo, who played in Clint's band Max 80 over the years, and he's another great guitar player and a great addition to the band. So yeah, man. I mean, yes, team is important and all that kind of stuff, but you got to have a good live presence, and I think I've built that, and I just love playing with the boys. They're great people.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I know
And I think,
Armando from way back too. He was big into the vinyl record scene too as a collector, and I rubbed shoulders with
yeah,
him several times. Good dude, man. Great dude.
yeah, I think it's very important. So I've learned over the years not to necessarily get the best bass player or the best guitar player that's known to man to have in your band. I've learned to have people around me who are motivated by what I'm doing, are moved by what I'm doing, and care about what I'm doing. I don't want to hire a guy and pay him $200 and be done with them, and okay, I'll call you when the next show's coming up, whatever. These guys are my friends. They're part of my family, and part of my team and what I'm doing. So I think that's very important to have that. And this is some advice for younger artists. I spent years hiring bass players, hiring guitar players, hiring drummers because they were part of the circuit downtown, and they were supposedly the best players in the province. And and that can bite you sometimes because they don't really hone into your product and what you're doing, and I think that's very important. So having friends as a band and not just as a business, it's another bit of advice I can give. Pick those who believe in what you're doing. They might not be the best players in the world, but I can damn well guarantee you they're going to show up to every gig. They're going to show up to rehearsals. They're going to show up when they need to show up. If you call them up for a jam or whatever, they'll come up. They just believe. These people just believe in what I'm doing, and I think that's very important, and it's stress free for me when I walk into a show, because I know they're going to have my back at the end of the day. So.
Okay. One more question for you then. I want the most unbiased opinion you can give me, which is tough when
Mm-hmm.
you're an artist because artists are always you got you're biased towards your own music and your own friends in the scene,
Yeah, for sure.
and it is what it is. But on an odd weekend off where Justin Fancy doesn't have to play, doesn't have to be in studio, he's not recording it on it,
Mm.
and you're going out with some friends or you're taking somebody on a date, whatever it is, who in Newfoundland, give me 2 to 3 artists that you love, you absolutely just love their music, love to go see.
Brothers in Stereo, by far. Chris and Andrew LeDrew. That's number one for me here in Newfoundland. Anyway, I love the guys, and they were people that I looked up to when I started on the scene. And I know they're doing a couple shows here now at the Ship. They don't play very often. When they do, I'm there. I love to see them. Obviously a lot of respect for Alan Doyle. I talked to Alan a few weeks ago, and about some industry stuff, and he was glad to help me out. Alan, what he's doing obviously is amazing, and I get to talk to him from time to time. I don't really hang out with him, but I do. Again, going back to Andrew and Chris, when they're playing, I'm there, but when I'm just wanting to hang out, and I usually go to Greensleeves Pub in St. John's and hang out with my buddy Lex. He's the entertainment manager down there. I've known him for years, and that's my hangout for me. It's my wind down. Um, Greensleeves has been so good to me, Stefan and Jody and the crew there. I've kind of transitioned out of a pub player, entertainer kind of guy playing 5, 6, 7 nights a week, to more recording artist side now, and they understand that. And for a while there was a little transition where Lex was calling me every now and then, can you play, can you play, can you play? And I was kind of moving on to the recording side of it. But yeah, that's where I spend my time. And other than that, outside of Brothers in Stereo, obviously Nick, when Nick is playing, when he's playing in town, he did a show at the Rock House a few months ago, and it was unbelievable. And Fairgale, huge fans of Fairgale, Stephen Green and Andrew and the boys. Fantastic, and very talented folks. We have a ton of talent here, man. Like it's amazing.
Ridiculous. Yeah.
Yeah,
Ridiculous.
and I think like going back to the know-hows and like there's a few bands here that have what it takes to move to the next level, and it's just engraving yourself and educating yourself on the business. It takes a lot of work, man. It's an everyday grind. But
Yeah.
yeah, so I'll say Brothers in Stereo, Fairgale, and Nick Earl is who I'm going to see regularly here if they're playing. I'm there 100%.
You just named probably three of my top bands on the island that I like to go see as well.
Yeah, so we're on the same page.
No, we're absolutely on the same page. I bought Nick's album the minute it came out on vinyl again. Nick
Mm.
Earl and the Restless Hearts, and just even my kids like it. Like I said, my kids don't like anything. Like they don't even like
Yeah,
music, and they're like, "Dad, that's cool." Because I mean, I grew up blues rock is like in my blood. I love the stuff. I
yeah.
first seen Nick play when he was way back. He was a teenager, not even allowed to play clubs. He was playing with Earl and Coffin, the duo, right?
Oh yeah.
They
Amazing
did,
stuff.
they did an acoustic set downtown, man, in one of these old buildings on candlelight. Me and my wife went down, and there was like 25 people in the room, and it was the best show I've ever seen. The
Oh
best
yeah.
show I've ever seen. I've been to see some great concerts. It was phenomenal. So, no, good choices.
Yep.
And one last announcement, I guess, because this is the announcement episode. I think this is announcement number 4. Whether I'm not sure if you know or not. Maybe you do. But we've just signed, and we're announcing it today. We've just signed another recording artist to Scilly Cove Records, and that is
Amazing.
Fairgale. So
Really?
guys from Fairgale are going to be
Oh, that's
producing
fantastic.
their next studio album through Scilly Cove Records, and
That's
we've
amazing.
signed, sealed, and delivered. Going to be working with Greg Wells as well. So
That's amazing, man. I'm happy for the guys. These guys have what it takes, every bit of it. And I obviously really good friends with Steven. I spend a lot of time chatting with him and stuff, industry wise, and I'm really happy for the boys. So congrats on that. Greg is a pleasure to work with, and I hope actually I don't hope I know that they're going to elevate their game, and I'm really excited for that.
yeah, no, absolutely. Greg, without trying to take too much of a text message, because text messages can be misconstrued. But when Greg sends me a
Hmm.
text, I can usually read between the lines because he makes it very, very apparent to me.
Hmm.
When I pitched Fairgale to him, and he listened to a couple of their tunes, he said Andrew Rogers has a world class voice,
Yeah. Oh yeah,
and
yeah,
and
yeah,
I said,
yeah.
you think? And
Mm,
he wrote back world class, all capitals, 3 exclamation points.
mm,
This was not up for debate. He's very, very impressed with, and I'm not
mm.
shocked. I've known this for years.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think Greg is as excited about it. Even the other day, we were talking about Fairgale in a private conversation, and Greg's like, I'm so happy that they're interested in working with us. I'm like, what?
Yeah, exactly.
They're interested
Yeah.
in working with us, you know?
Yeah, I hear you. I hear you.
But yeah, it's
Yeah, he's just so humble. I'll tell you a little story before we go here about Andrew Rogers. I used to play on the Rob Roy every Tuesday and Thursday night. And for a while there was this young kid begging, it wasn't really begging, just asking if he could sing a song with the band.
mm,
And it annoyed the shit out of me for several months. And I finally let him up on the stage, and I think he sang that Oasis song, "So Sally Can Wait." You knows it's too late. What is that tune? Don't Look Back in Anger. And he sang that with the band, and I was like, okay, yeah, you're really friggin' good.
get off the
And then
stage.
he kind of, yeah, no, man, he was really good, and I think he realized he's no different than, I guess, me and what I've done over the years and whatever else. He knew he had something, and he got up on the stage and sang, and I think that changed a lot of things for him because he started playing the Rob Roy then and started doing a few things musically. But he's a brilliant mind. Not only a great singer, unbelievable guitar player,
Mm,
and he's a producer in his own right. I mean, these guys are doing their stuff on their own, and It's just brilliant. It's really brilliant to me, what these guys are doing. I don't have half the talent that they do when it comes to the technical side of things, and how they approach music and everything else. I just think it's fantastic what they're doing. So, yeah, Greg and yourself, you've picked a great band to kind of try and propel to the next level, because I think they deserve it. And they got a great following here in town and in Atlantic Canada, as far as I'm concerned. And I think they just need the right push, and I think Scilly Cove Records is probably going to be that for them.
Sure hope so. If nothing else, we're going to
Mm.
have a lot of fun in the process, because that's really what
Yeah.
this is all about. And I think that's the key stepping stone to success, is making sure you're still having
Yeah, I'd
fun.
like to. I'd almost like to come down and see what you guys. If you are going to record in the church or whatever, I'll talk to Steven, and probably. I'd love to be near in the room for that, just to listen to what these guys do. I think it'd be really really cool.
Yeah, there's going to be we haven't really every one of the artists that we're going to be working with. It's all artist dependent. Like Courtney's album was 100%, vocal, church,
Hmm.
hollow room effect, the whole shooting match. We're working with Summer Bennett now again, one of our other recording artists that's completely remote. That like she may never step foot inside Trinity Hall. It's a different approach to the same end. And then we've got Jeremy Harnham, and Yes Officer, it's one of the most aggressive sounds you're ever going to hear, but yet he's going to record that in the church as well,
Yeah.
but not for the same reasons that Courtney did. So we haven't decided exactly how the whole Fair Gal thing is going to go. We haven't got time frames and everything narrowed down. We're hoping to start working with those guys in the late summer, early fall. But again, there's potential there for trips to LA. That's already been discussed as well, and all the same
Awesome.
Justin Fancy experience that you may have had the
Yeah.
opportunity to do. We're hoping to get the Fair Gal guys involved with that too, because that's
Yeah. It's
where
awesome.
you're growing artists, right?
Hmm.
You
Hmm.
just sprinkling that little bit of water onto them and letting see what grows. And
Yeah,
I
for
think
sure. Yeah.
it's on the right track.
Hmm.
In closing, I got to explain something to you now, because you're the first artist we've had on, and first guest we've had on, who doesn't have any real connection to Winterton. So up here with the logo,
Cool.
Downey's Bank.
Hmm.
The story behind Downey's Bank: it was a place of congregation. It has been, still is, for years in Winterton. It was a bank which looked out over the harbor, had a clear view of the wharf and that whole area. And because of that, fishermen gathered there early in the morning, late in the evenings, whatever it was, just to chat and share a few stories, tell a few lies,
Yeah.
just hear about how the day is going, hear about how your projects are going, and everything else. So again, thanks so much for sharing the bench at Downey's Bank, and best of luck with everything going forward, man.
Pretty cool. I really appreciate it, Ryan. Thanks for having me on. We'll
No
see you
problem.
soon.
Yeah, for sure.